mushrooms. They're looking good, and we got that bok choy. Okay, so we're going to do a simple kitcheree, which is a traditional Indian subcontinent staple. This one has brown rice and whole green mung beans. A lot of variations, maybe we'll do a different variation later. So any type of rice, any type of dal, mung dal, chana dal, other types of dal, lentils can work depending on how much time they need to cook. Without further ado, let's get started. Earlier today I soaked a half a cup of brown rice and a half a cup of mung dal. So soaked rice and dal. I like the Instant Pot here. So we got that all in there. Instant Pot I like. You can do this on a regular pot of any kind, like something like this. That's easy. Works fine. It's just faster and more efficient in the Instant Pot. So if you're serious about, getting into this healthy living and going to cook for yourself, it's a nice way to do it. It's efficient and it keeps all the nutrients in there as well. So with this meal, we're also going to serve up some vegetables. So we've got this nice bok choy here. We'll cut this up in a minute. I think I'm going to add spinach to the kitcheree later. This is some mushrooms here and a piece of shallot, because some of our eaters here, they're not following the strict yogic path, where some strict yogis are not going to eat mushrooms, they're not going to eat onion, and this is a shallot, I guess, it needs to be used. So this is for the folks here with us who are transitioning from a meat diet to a vegan diet, and it gives them something chewy and meaty to eat on. So I'm setting this for 22 minutes, and I like to get the water in there, which I'm going to do now. I'm going to carefully measure in there. That was 1 cup. I'm just eyeballing this here, folks. I want that to be well covered. If I were you, I would do 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice, and then we've got some dal that could take a bit more water. So probably need about 2.5 cups. A little up here, about this much space between the beans. So we got these things here soaking. So I'm just going to peel all this stuff here.
Whatever happened to the American dream? Whatever happened to the American dream? How the people get so mean? Whatever happened to the American dream? I'm going down with our democracy. I'm getting lined up against the wall. The dictator don't like the way I think. He don't like.
Just got this thing, it's on now. It means it's already going. I've got my potatoes, sweet potatoes and carrots, and down in the bottom there we can see this rice. It's a little down in there. So I think it's about 2.5 to 1 combined. So if you got half a cup of rice, half a cup of lentils, maybe about 2.5 cups. But you could try, it could be a little drier, it could be a little more moist depending. So I go with the luck of the draw, how I feel about it. I don't like to measure this particular thing, but I will measure some stuff. Other alternatives, let me show you real quick. So we actually have in here, there's some white rice. We could use white rice. There's chana dal. We could use white rice and chana dal. I don't have here any split mung. That's the brown. There's the green mung we use. We could use a lentil maybe. I wouldn't necessarily fancy that in this particular dish, but the idea is we got a lentil. Yellow mung works really good, yellow mung like that. Now what we should do is get these guys started here. So this is for the carnivores transitioning to a plant-based diet. Well, before we do that, let's get back to this. So we have to get this lid on pretty soon. It's heating up. You can, if it's a liquidy and you're really going for liquid, when it's finished, a very runny kind of kitcheree, you can add spices at the end in a chance, similar to the way you'd make a dal, and we'll get into that. For this one, most of the spicing is going to be done now in the liquid stage. We're still going to use turmeric, even though we don't have much in the way of oil. I'm going to add a little bit of oil for that purpose though. So maybe I'll do that first. So we've got something for the spices to land in. So a little bit of oil, not much, a little bit of oil, you kind of need that. What we do need here is turmeric, so we'll get some turmeric in here. Now you could measure this out carefully. Don't ever just tip it from the jar, because you get a big whole ton of it in there. And whilst it's an excellent thing to put in your kitchery, if there's too much, it will ruin it. If you do by accident blob too much in there, I suggest you get your wooden spoon and pick it out. But I think we're okay with that. It looks good. Because we have turmeric, we must have black pepper. So I'm doing those about 50-50, the black pepper and the turmeric, until somebody tells me otherwise. Can't do anything without some red chili flakes. I don't know how many that was. Not that many. You can be a little heavy on the spices with this because it's thick. If it was just a soup, you'd be in danger of putting a few too many chilies and get too hot. With this, it's really hard to make it too hot or too spicy. What I also want to have in here, because I'm going for this kind of curry type thing, is that I want to have some ground cumin. I could put some seeds in there. We've got some cumin seeds. They would probably cook pretty well, but I'm going for ground cumin. I think what I'll do, I'm going to do it properly now. I'm going to just put it in the lid, because I really don't want to overdo on this one, because some of our residents here are not big fans of it. It's quite nice when it's subtle, but again, if it's too bold, it'll be overwhelming everything, right? So we're not looking to overwhelm the palate with like 500 different flavors. So that's enough. That's all we need, really. And we do have to have some salt. This is to taste. You're going to do the salt to taste. I'm doing a one heaping little tiny spoon, like that. That ain't that much. I'm going to do a tiny little bit more, just because it's just, I made a soup yesterday and there wasn't quite enough salt in it, and I regretted not having a bit more salt. But that you can add to soup very easily. It's hard to add salt to kitchery. You can, sort of. And this is starting to bubble, so I got to get the lid on quick. The oil there was mostly for distribution of the flavoring of the spices. Spices, of course, are kind of medicinal. Turmeric has so many medicinal benefits. Anti-inflammatory or something like that. If you have arthritic pain in your shoulder, pain in your knee, something like that, you know, the turmeric can actually work wonders with that. So highly recommend it. I know from personal experience, I believe that's been part of my own kind of healing using turmeric. So let's get this on. I think we've got everything in there. If not, it's too late. Make sure that's good. And now we can, that's the, dare I say, the George Foreman of household appliances. We're going to forget that now, just let it do its own thing. So let's get back to some vegetable prep. Alright, so with this bok choy here, what I like to do now is I like to cut it this way. This one, actually, I'm going to do this. Every vegetable is different. What I want to do is I want to separate these out, because this down here becomes a trap for dirt. And if it rains when this is in the field a lot heavily, the mud bounces around and it gets into the plant here. So unless you can separate it out and wash it, you don't get the sand out. So I'm not normally going to cut these. I think I'm going to leave these whole. I'm just going to separate them. It's all based on the size. So we're going to do different types of bok choy. In this case, I'm just throwing these over into a thing of water here. I like to leave them in the water for a little while, because see all this dirt is coming off. So I want to get that, that was a bit rotten. I want to get that sand out. So I like to soak them a little bit in water. This is a big lot of bok choy for. I'm kind of reusing that potato water. I'll give them a final rinse. I'm going to reuse the water slightly. I'm going to have to leave these in here for a while. I don't mind if I break these leaves. That's okay. I'm not trying to on purpose, but I want it to fit. But these are each one piece, one leaf. I don't need to cook that. I don't need to cut that. I can leave that as it is. No need to cut these. You don't want to cut everything down to tiny little pieces of everything. It just disappears. You start losing the prana. So I think I want to leave these in here for a little while. So meanwhile, I think it's time to clean up. So let's get the compost bin. Fresh bag in here so we can get this cleaned up, put into the compost. This thing here, the button came up, so that was pretty quick. So we got that in there. Like, you can't wait any longer than that. Once it's steaming up, try to close the lid. You won't. You'll have problems. And you know, if you're not careful, the lid can kind of sort of blow off. I don't want to scare you. These things are not scary. They got a very good safety device on. I don't know if anybody has been hurt by one of these. Anyway, so that's on the roll. I can hear it kind of. Shouldn't really be like hissing at us. All right, so let's do some process some mushrooms. These are king oyster mushrooms. All right, I think that comes off. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. I grew up with vegetarian cooking that did not include mushrooms. So I'm just leaving the bottom part of here because I feel like I've just got sawdust in there or something. So what I think I'll do is I'll rinse them first, rinsed off. It can kind of dry. These will get cut fairly small into pieces that you're actually going to cook down. Trying different approaches here. Quartering. That's too big. Different thicknesses ends up with different textures. Go back to this. So this has had a good soak now. It's been soaking for a good few minutes. I think that's good enough. We'll pull that out and then just get a little bit of water across the top of that in case there's any sand in there. What you don't want to be here with this bok choy is you don't want to be biting down on a load of grit. So these are all going into here. So let's get this thing started. We'll start this off on a little bit higher. So this one does take a lot of oil. So look away, people with oil phobias. I'm going to get that warming up right there. Get this bok choy started. We have a nice pan here. Got this just started up on a medium heat. I'm going to get some oil in here as well. Don't need a whole lot for this. Small amount of oil. This one we're going to do our favorite chili flakes. I like to go a little heavy on these chili flakes. That's my thing with this. So we want this oil to get hot and we're going to get these chili flakes all into the oil. We're going to see the color change. Meanwhile, this is getting hot. Let's try it out. Yep. Okay. It's kind of big pieces instead of breaking them down. Some people do not eat these. This is definitely not something that someone in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition will be eating. And probably good reasons for that. Considered to be a food in the mode of ignorance. Tamasic food in the tamagun. I think the reason for that is mostly because they grow at night time. They're growing with moonlight and they're growing with sunlight. And also they tend to be growing on like piles of dung as well. So I think most of the mushrooms we get, no, that's not true. Some of them are growing on trees, wood. But a lot of the mushrooms that we get are actually growing on like horse manure. So, you know, naturally myself, I'm asking myself, okay, horse manure. So where's the horse manure coming from, and what are the horses eating, and what are the horses being injected with, or what's going into their feed, you know? So I'm always wondering, you know, organic, what does that mean in mushrooms? I don't know. This is a food that if you really want to go into a very sattvic, mode of goodness, yogic life, you would give up eating mushrooms. But you know, mushrooms are an interesting thing. We've got people here who like them, so we're going to do some of those. Meanwhile, this is coming along. We're going to do the average daily salad. So this is one of these mini cucumbers. Peel these. I think it's just a baby cucumber. They call them Persian cucumbers, very popular. It's nice to have like a cucumber that you don't have to like use half of it and leave it half open, cut in the refrigerator. What I do here is, with these I like to pull the leaves off the outside. That way you kind of leave the plant not to disintegrate too much. And the other thing I like to do with this is, I like to just dip these in the water just like that before putting it back into the bag. That seems to do something to help this lettuce stay fresh. So I'm going to relocate these to here whilst we're waiting for this. I need this basket. I'm going to leave those on this lid. I tried to get most of the water out, so I'm going to leave them over here just whilst I'm waiting for this, which is starting to come along. And now I can put this in here. You can see that there's some looks like sand, a little pile of sand in the bottom, you see that? You get all of that out of there, so that's just going to be... I mind leaving those for a little while also, just to kind of clean up. This can go back in the fridge, but here we are. I think we're getting ready for this. It's browning up, so let's just go for it. I'm going to just take these a handful at a time. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to dump the whole thing in. There's going to be a bit of water in here, so it's going to splash. So that's actually not splashing too much. What I'm going to do here briefly is put the lid on it. Not for very long. We don't like to cook these. Greens should be cooked uncovered, otherwise they're going to go horrible. But we need to get them started, and that's the same with the mushrooms here. We need to get these guys started, sort of get them over the hump, as it were, in terms of starting to be cooked. So right now they're kind of cooking in a blend of oil and water. I could add to this, we've got our homegrown basil, homegrown oregano. We've got all kinds of stuff we could add to this. I don't see the point because it has its own flavor, so I could add black pepper, but I don't need to. I'm not adding anything to this. But they're starting to get cooked. So I might be able to get the lid off of this pretty soon. I'm a bit worried about these big pieces. I'm going to leave the lid on for a few more minutes. Then we'll get the lid off and we'll let it evaporate. These guys need to get repositioned under here. Bok choy are going to cook down to nothing, and so are these mushrooms. They look like nothing. So again, we need a little bit of a lid on this, but be very careful not to forget that. Leave it too long with the lid on. The greens. This is the basic salad. Some greens on there. Get some cucumber. Put that on there. Could be just peeled off like that. And leave them. Then we get some tomatoes. And we have these microgreens. Organic micro rainbow mix. Here's the end of the box. Some of that on there. And that on there. Looks pretty good. Fenugreek. It's just got to the point where we like to eat it. It's just starting to get some green shoots. So we're going to get some of this on there as well. In case you're wondering what that is, it's this here. Fenugreek seeds. No, that's about it. So because there's so much avocado in here, such a lot of fat, we don't need any oil on this. And as far as the dressing is concerned, we're going to keep this simple. And I've had compliments from people who are like, fast food eaters. This is a tiny little spoon. A little bit of salt there. And a little bit more. It's like a little bit of salt there to kick things off. And then definitely we're doing this black pepper thing here. There's some black pepper going on. The apple cider vinegar. So that actually is all you need. If you got avocados, all you need is salt, black pepper, cider vinegar. If you don't have any avocados, you can put a little bit of olive oil. But you don't need any other dressing, that's all you need. Seriously. It'll taste great. So I was getting really distracted there by the salad. And Forgot about my lid, so I've got this lid off of here now. That's the end of the lid, no more. So now we're going to get this to stay on the same heat. This is a very thick bottom pan, it's quite good. But just turn that over a little bit. We really cook that as much as we want to cook it. Once we take the lid off, it's not going to go, it's kind of like an olive brown color that you don't want to get. So we're going to let that just evaporate out some of that moisture. So it's just kind of coated with the oil and the chili. And then I'm going to add some salt to this later. I'm just going to add some soy sauce to this. That's basically just salt. Keep it sticking a little bit. So now we still got that sort of, technically we added kind of water to this. You can see it's pretty thick here at the bottom. It's starting to stick. So that's the time to get our soy sauce in here. That's one of the things you can keep in the fridge or the cupboard. Like it's always there. It's like chili flakes, really easy. You don't need a whole lot of stuff. So that's actually looking pretty good right now. We're going to let that continue to cook. We like to get this, can be different. It can be like this. Soft, and also get like crispy, even chewy or crispy. And then on this one here, I think I'm ready for the salt. I'm ready to cut the heat on this until serving. Don't need to cook that anymore. Now we just need to keep it warm. I'm going to put some salt in it. I'm going to salt it a little bit like a salad. I see like 2 halves here. But just in case you're freaking out that I'm using so much salt, look at the size of this spoon compared to my thumb. So if you think that your thumb's like a teaspoon, this is like a really small, look, it's tiny, it's a pinch of salt. So you don't want to go over the top, because the more salt you add, the more you end up needing to add. It becomes like this cycle where you put more salt and you get used to more salt, and then you want more salt, more salt. Next thing you know, you're having migraines, and especially if you're eating salt that is like artificially superheated salt that's heated up to whatever 2000 degrees and highly processed. What you need to get is the best, cleanest natural salt you possibly can find. That's always the rule. Get the highest quality natural salt, unadulterated. That's all that. And then so there's the basic finished salad, the basic salad. My recommendation personally, and this is something I learned and then put into practice over a long period of time, is always eat the salad first. Because if you eat a load of kind of comfort food, you know, maybe having like roasted potatoes and flavored rice or some great soup, after that you just move into comfort foods. And if salad is kind of an austere food, it's a food we eat because we know it's good for us. You know, if you have some sauerkraut, fermented vegetables, should be eaten first as an appetizer, like olives also. They're going to stimulate the appetite. We've got here a side of vinegar and salt. We could have lemon juice and salt, stimulate the appetite and get the whole thing started off. The other thing is, if you eat a nice big salad, we're going to partially fill the stomach with this food which has a high water and fiber content, and it's going to reduce the amount of heavy starchy foods that we eat. So we're going to eat the salad first, and you'll enjoy it a whole lot more if you eat it first. So it starts with the salad, and then we'll get into the rest of the meal after that. So this is not sticking anymore, starting to get a little golden brown in places, so that she's going to be quite good. And then this one, I just left the salt on top to kind of make its way in. We'll just turn that over once before we serve it. This has been on low for a while. You just unplug that, lid off, get some water in there. So see how it looks. All the vegetables came to the top. Semi-liquid. Plan A was to add some spinach to this. I'm going to stick with it. So we're just going to fold that in. So we've got the Kitcheree. Should be good. With the mushrooms. Looking good, and you got that bok choy, and that's that.